It all comes down to this, the final Friday night under the lights. Welcome to the last Red Raider preview show of the 2025 season, as your Decatur Red Raiders get set to battle their longtime rivals, the Athens Golden Eagles, right here at Ogle Stadium this Friday night. It's senior night in Decatur, and Friday night we celebrate the young men who've worn the red and black with pride. Their last time taking this field as Red Raiders. The season has been a roller coaster of grit, growth, and heart, and now the Raiders look to finish strong against a familiar foe from just up Highway 31. Pride, tradition, excellence, and one more chance for our senior to leave it all on the field. This is Red Raider football. This is senior night, and this is the Red Raider preview show. We join Brent Collins, Coach John Ritter, Nick Bolofsky, and the man, the myth, the legend. Award-winning and justly popular color commentator and co-host of the show, Mr. John Godwin.
Welcome to the Red Raider preview show with Coach John Ritter. We got Brent and Nick. Nick, come on to the...
You got a little pep in your step today, John. What's going on, man?
Full of steak. Happy to the steak barge party. But last game of the year, but we got to review two games, right? Is that right, Coach Ritter?
Yeah, we
did miss last week.
We missed last week, so
why don't you start us off on reviewing?
Well, I think it would be the same synopsis for both games.
So it was Mae Jemison at the old Joe Davis Stadium, and then this past week went down to Cullman for a region game. So let's hit the highlights of the Cullman game, and then we can correlate the Mae Jemison game in with that. But I will say the Mae Jemison, as far as the field and the amenities of that, did that seem to, were the kids like wowed with that stadium, or was it much different or whatever? They had a big screen TV up there.
Yeah, you would think, but I don't think they cared. There you go. I cared. I thought it was cool. I mean, the whole venue was neat. The
Davis Stadium, Huntsville and Decatur playing there years ago. Can you remember the Erbos?
Can you remember? Because it was adult to play in back in the 80s.
I remember watching
highlights of, early 90s. They used to Friday night, score shows and seeing in the highlights of Joe Davis. I've never played there. I've never been to a game there. I went watch Huntsville Start play there, but as far as a football game, no. But that's a very tradition-rich stadium for Huntsville City, and the amount of work that they've redone, and I mean, it's awesome. It's very nice. Wow.
They had a playoff game for the football team, the soccer team this weekend. I mean, I would imagine that's well attended, but
well, they were saying it's some kind of different turf.
Yeah, it's just there's 1,000 different styles of turf, but that grass was that's the closest to real grass that I've ever seen. Just the type infield that it had, the whole 9 yards. It was a very fast playing surface, which is good and bad. Good when you're
good if you're fast, bad if you're slow.
Yeah.
Is it a major upgrade from what we have now?
No, I think it's different. Ours is more kind of split and leafy looking, where that was not. A lot shorter stalks. But I mean, it was nice. The whole thing is great sideline, great locker room, and that's the thing you run into is normally you get stuck in small locker rooms, but I thought the whole 9 yards. I mean, the whole deal was good. And then we played really well for a half, and then just kind of shot ourselves in the foot the second half. And you say the same thing about Cullman. First half, I thought we did a lot of good things. Then the second half, it just kind of unraveled us.
So I didn't make the Cullman game, but these guys did figure out a way to pipe me in. I was in Auburn for my daughter's for her parents' weekend for her sorority, and I didn't stay on long, but I did notice when the first half. I didn't get to watch the first half, but we jumped out. Isaiah Allen had 2 really good long runs. I think the
First play of the game.
first play of the game. I think the line was blocking really well. So what is the attitude of the team going into the locker room? With how well they play.
Looking back, and hindsight's 2020. I think we were emotionally gassed. I think we put so much emotion and physical effort, and I just feel like we emptied our tank too early. And you say, well, it's the 9th game of the year. Why aren't you running? Why aren't you doing this? What's the 9th game of the year? Emotional fatigue is so much different than physical fatigue. And, I thought coming out of half, we had to get a stop and we didn't, and then we had just, even with that, we hold them, we just couldn't get back in a rhythm for whatever reason. And then they hit a 41-yard field goal. We finally flipped the field, and that had a lot to do with our offensive troubles. Is, what you call when you're on your -10 is a lot different than you call on your 30. And we couldn't get in a rhythm, and then they broke the long run, and that was kind of the thing that broke our back when they went up 10 right there, and frustrating, but I think that's growing pains that we're having to go through right now.
Well, and we may get to it later, and certainly we'll get into the Athens game, but that makes me think of the night we had last night with the barge party and you and your coaching staff pouring into the kids and talking about the seniors. Where it's a senior wall right here. They're represented here. Not a big group, but it's a group that has persevered within 3 different coaches in 4 years, and I think we got an opportunity to go out on a win, and that's what last night was all about, with pushing that out to the kids. And anything you want to say in reference to Tigers and this being their last opportunity to go up and put the pads on.
Well, I mean, first of all, a great group of young men. We got 14 seniors. Turner's hurt, so we got 13 that play. Never an issue. I never get emails about them. I never get phone calls about them. I never worry, are they going to be on time? Are they going to be here? Are they going to miss? And that's a lot of positive characteristics for a group of young men. We're about to go out in the real world. And football-wise, they have kind of, had a lot of uncertainty. I'm I guess the steady thing in their life, and I've only been here 2 years out of 4. But they have everything that they want to accomplish as far as the senior goes. You as a senior, you want to win homecoming, you want to beat your rivals, and you want to win senior night. And we have an opportunity to do 2 out of the 3, and that's a lot better than being 0 for 3. And so we just talked about really all week about making sure that your last opportunity in that jersey is something that you can remember, a positive memory for the rest of your life.
Well, one thing I kind of hung my hat on last night, didn't say it, but that they really are your first senior class that had an off season with you. So they will forever be able to hang their hat on the fact that, you had a senior class last year that, and they're part of, but this, and you look forward to that off season. You talked a lot about that last season. So there was a lot of growth, not only in the senior class, but everybody. So those guys did what other guys didn't do, and they stuck with it.
Absolutely. We had 5 or 6 guys not make it through off season, and that was the first of many off seasons here like that. If you're able to survive what we do, then you're invested, you're bought in, and you have, and I think that's why they are the way they are, and that's why they play the way they play. Those guys empty their tank. If they're on a special team, they play hard. If they're on offense, defense, they play hard. And I think it's because of what they invested and it's only going to get better. Obviously the juniors want to be seniors, have been with us for 3 out of 4 years. Freshmen want to be sophomores, have been with us, the whole time. This 8th grade coming up will be, all they know is us because they've been in this program now since 7th grade. And, there's doing things the right way sometimes takes time, building a foundation and building a program more than a team, that takes time. And we've got guys walking the halls that could have been on a team, but aren't able to be a part of a program, and I'm okay with that, because these 14 that stuck with us, they're going to be successful in life, and that's important.
And that's something that, we talked to John about, and I've talked to my son about. Learn how to be a good teammate. Be a good teammate first. You're going to walk in teams your entire life. You're going to be on teams your entire life, and be a good teammate. Learn how to support each other, work hard for each other, look across the table. You're going to be in the trenches with them, and you're going to look back in 20 years and have that relationship with them. So, and what a great night. You want to carry us into Athens?
You got it.
I've been past the rain on this one.
Past the rain, okay.
Injuries, you want to talk about anything with injury-wise?
Where are all the injuries? I know.
Are we getting Ethan Prater back, or is he?
No, he's done.
He's done. Okay.
Devin's done. Jacob Marshall's playing with a cast. He's been dealing with a thumb issue for 4 or 5 weeks. They casted him up for 1 more week. And outside of that, I think we're healthy. Battles was sick last week. He's back. And so as far as injuries, we didn't have maybe half as many, or maybe a third season-ending injuries than we had last year. And I attribute that to the offseason. You can look at our kids and we look better. We look bigger. We look, like they worked their tail off, and they did. And that's the frustrating piece about, I guess, high school coaching is we're a better football team than we were last year. Now, our record's not indicative of that, but I think if you look, and I'm not a moral victory guy, we had an opportunity to beat Cullman that we didn't have last year. Hartsel games, 14-0 at halftime. We were able to give ourselves a chance this year, where last year we didn't have a snowball's chance of being successful in some of those games. And that's only going to get better and better. And that's the foundation that we're talking about. Obviously people say, well, you're not any better, you're 2-8, but we are, and you can look at us and see that we're better. We're better football players than we were last year. And we still got a long way to go, physically, mentally, emotionally, the football side of it, the whole 9 yards. But, I think that, if you base everything off wins and losses, then you're not really seeing the growth in these kids.
Well, let's move on to Athens. Got big shoes to fill here.
Go ahead.
John Godwin. Let's talk about head coach Cody Gross. Whenever I say the name, I think winner, because the first thing that comes to my mind is UNA and national championships. Always a hard worker and a great football coach.
And I believe that's where you started your coaching career, is it not?
It is. Yeah, Alan Creasy was the head coach. Yeah, now, so my dad actually.
You and Councilman Creasy?
Yeah, he is a councilman now.
Does he still do the radio?
No, I don't think
he give up.
I think he got out of there. Got too much right weights, but all fun stuff. Cody was a senior at Lodi County when my dad took over. And so, have known Cody since I was 7 years old. Following his career at UNA, my first job was with Athens with Coach Creasy, and Cody was the offense coordinator. So, a lot of personal connections with me. And, my first job as a 16-year-old was with Charles Gross, who was a little Debbie man in North Alabama. So, the Gross family and the Ritter family has been entwined for a really, really, really long time. That's why we played them when I was at Russell. I wanted to play people that do things the right way. I wanted to play good teams, and Cody embodies all that. Their team is very similar, to a lot of places I've been, where they may not be the most talented in every spot, they're going to play hard. They're going to do things the right way. They're going to be, physical, and they're going to run to the football. And so, it's a lot of the characteristics that I like to base my program on.
Yeah. Offensively, another well-coached thing.
Yeah, and I think this offense is different than anything he's ever had. His youngest son, Braden, Brogan, right? Brogan just graduated. Was a 4-year starter for him. And so I think early on they tried to find their way. They ended up making a change. The quarterback now, what did start on defense, is a very explosive run. They're doing a lot of triple stuff in what they do, which I love because that's been my background for 20 years. But they find a way to get their playmakers the ball. They've got a bunch, number 6, number 7, and then the quarterback, number 11. Those 3 guys are threats every time they got the ball in their hands.
Defensively,
it's funny. Cy Ellis is now the defense coordinator, and Cy is a good friend of mine. We've been friends since high school. He actually lived behind me in Tuscaloosa when we were both at Alabama, and so a lot of familiarity there. We've been guys that have talked in the off season for 13 years, and so they're going to get lined up right. They're going to do things the right way. They're going to bring a lot of pressures, and they're going to get to the football and try to create turnovers. And defensively, they're really good, and that's really what kind of, I guess, held them together early on while they found their offensive footing. Is the speed in which they play on defense.
special teams wise, kickoff is what I always think of. First of all, are they another sky kick team? Are they a low line drive? Or are they
We'll kick that thing on the ground. We've gotten 2 in the last 5 weeks. When we kick it hard and we don't hit somebody in the front line, they're starting inside the 30. Which, if you look over the last 5 weeks, we've given up very few drives where they had to go 70 yards. A lot of the scoring drives for us, except for that one against Coleman, has been, 50 or less. And so, we got to win the field position battle, and we feel like kicking on the ground does that.
Gotcha. So you talk about the keys to victory, but before you go there, some things we talked about with keeping the emotion. We know it's senior night.
Did y'all have a senior night?
No,
I did not have a senior night.
that started
This
3
new?
weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's before the game, right? We do that.
6:30.
Yeah. So
really seniors? When I was, we were recognized during the banquet, and that's when seniors received their awards. Was that the same with you?
yeah, it was a banquet, end of the year banquet. But I mean, I think it's a pretty neat thing. I mean, it's in addition to the football players, it's the cheerleaders, it's maybe the band members, and
Cross country.
but knowing that
Women.
cross country swimming, so
They'll all be included Friday night.
If they got seniors, yeah.
so how do you keep that emotion in check? The seniors knowing they're going to be on the field with their parents or guardian and have that emotion, knowing this is their last time to suit it up. I mean, and in particular with Cullman, like you talked about, just they ran out of gas. How do you keep that in check?
Well, I mean, I think it's what we preach all the time. That's keeping the main thing the main thing. And the recognition before the game, that's great. Have an opportunity to stand out there with your parents or guardians or whoever, that's great. But if the game wasn't the most important thing, we'd do it first, and we'd end the game with the recognition, or play the game on Thursday and have the recognition on Friday, or whatever it is. And this is game 10. This is year 4 for those guys. And even though every program's different, and they have had some change, I've been here long enough, and they've been with us long enough to understand how to keep the main thing the main thing. And that's their job. And I think that's the next step in this process of getting back to where we want to be, is taking ownership of our actions, ownership of our focus, ownership of really everything that you can control. And for those guys, it's another opportunity to prove that.
Well, and one thing I heard last night that we preached a lot about, and I know you and your coaching staff is having that winning mentality. And last night was an opportunity for everybody sitting around the room to talk about their expectation on Friday night is to go out there and end on a positive and end with a win. So hopefully that carries over into the game, and it sets and paves a way for classes to come ahead of them to establish that winning mentality.
Yeah, and it's really more than anything, it's getting away from a victim mentality, and that's kind of, we don't have cliches in our program that when you walk in the door, they're posted what a victim looks like, what a winner looks like, and you can choose to be a winner every day. Whether you've had success in middle school, JV, varsity, it doesn't matter. At some point, you have to decide to stop being a victim and to be a winner. And when is that? I don't know. Every kid's different. Every person's different. Every program, every staff, everything's different. But at some point, you got to stop, playing that victim role and decide that you're going to win in everything that you do. Whether it be math, whether it be washing your car, whether it be football, who cares? It's all the same. It's about doing what you're supposed to do all the time.
All right, so Coach, we have some mystery questions. I'm gonna take the first one, you take the second one, then you do it, and we'll just go around this way.
We're going to cover all of them.
Because these questions we put out over the World Wide Web for questions for Coach Ritter, and these are the top few that we got back. So first one is this: how has fatherhood changed your coaching style or the way you interact with players? That's a stupid question. Go no.
Well, you get your kids down there with you. I mean, I imagine you having the kids down there with you makes a difference.
Yeah. Relationships have always been a big part of, I guess, my coaching style. I can remember, and I still talk to guys that I coached my first year at Muscle Shoals, and Ryan Ware was my first, little quarterback and he was little. He was 5'10", about 150 pounds, starting in 5'8". Relationships and the importance of them have always been important. But I think being a dad has changed because, I value those even more than I did before. I always thought they were important, because that in coaching school, that's what you're supposed to do. It's about the kids, it's about this, it's about that. But having Lincoln and having Lillian and seeing them interact with our players has just placed even more value on, I'm going to ride these guys, and I tell them all the time, I'll brag on you at the banquet. That's my time to be Mr. Positive. My job for you in the 10 games that we're together, whatever, the 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, is I want you to maximize your ability. If I have to ride you to do that, that's okay. Because at some point you're going to turn around and say, man, that crazy son of a gun is right. I didn't understand why, but now I do. And having Lincoln, I coach him just like I coach these kids. I don't believe in participation trophies. I don't believe in just showing up and getting something. You got to work for it. All right.
My question is Saturday morning. You wake up at 7 a.m.
And this is after the Lions game.
This Saturday.
I'm going to be pissed if I wake up at 7 a.m. I got to sleep till about 9:15. I got to get some sleep.
Well, that was what the question is. It's the first Saturday after the season. What do you do? Does that start your decompression, or do you come up here and you go ahead and do your regular Saturday routine? Or it's been different places where I've been. Different head coaches do different things. What do you do? Do you start your decompression? You sleep in?
Yeah.
I think you've already kind of given us a heads up.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to sleep past 9 o'clock. I'm gonna have him curtains closed, and that I can sleep till 10. That's what I'll do. And I'm gonna tell you, talking about kids and wife, Lauren and my kids, they understand. They're great as far as wanting to be involved, but they also understand that I think the toll that it takes on me physically, emotionally, everything. And they're really good about Saturday mornings letting me get up and not, coming in there, even if we've got something to do or whatever. I really hope this Saturday there's nothing on the family calendar. But no, we'll get up and, hopefully there's a good game on. We'll watch college game day and, I might turn on the game. I might not. Depending on how the game goes, I may watch it Friday night. That's kind of my routine is to watch it till, 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning before I go to sleep. But, I go ahead and I just disconnect immediately. I'll come up here Sunday and start wearing some clothes and be in and out. And the beautiful thing is I got a great staff. There's a lot of guys live close. Coach Don, Coach Adcock, myself all live on one side of town. Coach Williamson, Coach Blagg live kind of on this side of town. And, we divide everything out. So we'll kind of just take shifts throughout Saturday and Sunday and go ahead and get the stuff clean so that we can come in on Monday and go ahead and put it up. But now Monday, it's a rat race. I try to get all the helmets done, all the shoulder pads done. I want to be completely done with inventory and cleaning and putting away by Wednesday. And, that's really difficult because there's 100 kids. But it's a grind to get it done. That way, we take the rest of that week off, as far as what we're doing in here. And then that following Monday, we're going to get back after it.
I'm just curious, will you go to a football game Friday night?
No.
Taking the car today, guys.
No, we're going to be trick or treats.
There you go.
Take the next two.
Take the next two. Well, I didn't mean to leave that on, but
I'll be honest with you. I've been to a game that I have not went and scouted our upcoming opponent, which I haven't done that in 3 or 4 years. With them, you don't have to. I've went to one game in 15 years. And that was last year. Dad wanted to go watch Madison Academy in West Morgan.
Yeah.
And we went and watched it, and I don't know. I don't really care about watching other people play.
I like it. All right. This is kind of a 2-part question. And this is really for the future. Okay. This senior class and really the junior class will not get to participate in, but I think there's some chatter that there is going to be an indoor facility built here in the end zone, and talk about what you would like to see. And if you have a role in with the architect designers or, whoever, the administration of what you would like to see in that type of facility.
Yeah. I think there has been some funding approved. We've talked. Obviously, I'll be as involved as Dr. Douglas wants me to be. I do think there's a need for some facility upgrades here. I think we did a ton when we came in last July with the graphics, with the All-State board. A lot of things to bring pride into that locker room, and a lot of tangible things to see on the wall for kids to strive to get on, with the All-State wall, with the NFL wall. But we got to have a weight room. Our weight room is not, 6A standard. It's not a standard of a program that's got, 95 plus kids consistently, and then we've got 90 middle school kids, and, we're having to be super creative here because we all work out. And we've got a small weight room in the gym, which can fit a few, but then we've got our weight room. And so it poses a lot of challenges for a group when you got Coach Masson and Coach Russell, who all want their kids to work out. Coach Belcher, soccer. Every male sport wants to work out, it's vital. If we want to get to where we want to be, we have to work out year round, everybody. There cannot be a lag because you're in season, whatever. And so I hope it comes to fruition. I think B, it will be nice, because that's one thing about Dr. Douglas is he's got a great vision of what looks good. But we got to have space. Got to have space to work.
Well, and the second part of that question, we talked early in the year when before the Mushoals game about when you went there as a coach, they didn't have the facilities that they have now, and we see that that's probably a big reason why they're seeing some of the successes they are now. What do you see and expect if we are able to get an indoor facility? How will that affect athletics and academics?
Well, I think they go hand in hand. The places that I've been that's been ultra successful in athletics were really good in academics as well. And I think they bleed into each other, and I think they can take away from each other. I think the key to being successful is the balance. You have to be very balanced. In football, you have to be balanced, but also, in this school building, if you're academics heavy and everything is focused just on that, there's going to be something that suffers, and vice versa. You can't be so focused on athletics because then academics are going to suffer. And, I've worked for some really good superintendents that understood that balance, and Dr. Douglas is no different. I think he sees the benefits of all of it. And that's why the commitment's been made to us and Austin to do some financial things for all sports, because you say, well, you're building an indoor, only football is going to use that. Well, that's false. Everybody's going to go through that weight room. It's going to be a weight room big enough that every male athlete can work out together at the same time all summer long. Same thing with the females. They can all utilize that during their athletic planning. But then you start talking about the turf, and now it's a covered space for football. It's a covered space for baseball. It's a covered space for softball, for soccer, for everybody. There's not one sport that's not going to be able to utilize a functional space. And, I think that's important, in the places that have a true understanding of what that balance looks like is successful.
Well, that's great. We may be running a little short on time. One thing I want to bring up is Mr. John Godwin, and we're going to turn that on you now with the mystery question, and this comes from Coach Ritter.
Can't hit me.
So you've been around for 45 years, is what you said last night. Obviously 26 is radio and TV. Number one, right off the cusp, no thinking. What's your favorite memory of Decatur football?
Play, how I hear one.
Game.
I tell you what, I'll give you an example. We went, and I don't know what year, don't ask me that, but we went to Birmingham to play minor, I think, in Legion Field. And so I think it was Steve Moulton and I were in the press box, and you can see the press box goes all the way around one side of the stadium, and us two and about 3 coaches were the only ones up there. But once you go into the Legion Field, I was expecting Bear Bryant to come around the corner because it's steeped in what I remember as a kid. But we actually went down and blocked the punt against him. And I know that you're a Bammer, so you don't understand punt, Bama, punt. Back in the day with Gusty Year out, and they had that call on the punt, Bama, punt. And my mother and I used to, you get these little records that they were plastic and they were square, but you could play them on the phonograph. And we used to get up there and listen to that call. And as a kid, and my mother and I, we'd listen, and we both have tears in our eyes because, we don't beat you guys too often, so they give us a break on that. But I got to do that call. I did the same call in that block punt. And then I thought, surely we can't do another block punt. And it was like the next series, block punt again. It is block punt, taken in for a touchdown. Block punt, taken in.
So that's your broadcast career. What about your playing days?
How many kicks you block? Never mind. I take it back.
I didn't kick him ball. There's a lot. The thing that popped in my mind right now is because of what we talked about last night, but about the 40-yard line. It's probably second quarter, since state semifinals against Mountain Brook. And I was a sophomore, and I was playing. I started as a sophomore, which I don't know why, because anyway. But I called the plays, and Coach Rivers was telling me, watch the screen. So I'm over there. I'm telling my defensive end and the other linebackers to watch the screen. Well, the screen they're going to throw to Major Ogle. And so, sure enough, there we go. Here comes the screen. And I don't know what happened to them other dudes on our team, but it ended up me and Major. And I hit him as hard as I could. Somehow I slid around him and got like I was chokehold on the back. And he just went right down the field with me, holding on to him. Never could get him down. He's probably one of the toughest guys. You couldn't hit him to knock him off his feet. He was just really good at that.
So did he take you in the end zone, or did he finally shed you?
No, he took me in the end zone. Okay.
Did you get off his back then?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I tried to still tackle it. But that's a lot. There's a lot of things that I remember with Coach Webb and Coach Rivers and Coach Grammer, all that happened out on this field.
Well, I'll say this, John. I mean, I think maybe this is my 6th or 7th year, but I know you well enough to know. I talked about you being a family man, but you don't like change very well, okay?
No.
And that's what I have learned. And in these 6 years, we've gone from the radio, which you guys did for your first 20 years, you and Dr. Burns, and y'all were going backstage, and you had commercials and all this. And then we tried to do it on our own with you and I being the cameraman.
Oh, yeah. They look.
Yes.
So, I remember the first time we noticed that we could see ourselves through the camera of the computers. Like, I think that's us. Can we?
It was us, and then we turned the computer around, and we can see the field. So now, and we've gone from YouTube, and of course we got Tim and Joe that's come in to amp up the production, and now this past year we've gone to Huddle Fan, which that's a whole new production truck opportunity. We got replay now. At some point with this athletic facility, we're going to have a jumbotron maybe, but there's a lot of excitement. But you've weathered the storm in these last 6 years to a lot of change.
I have, and it's a young man's game. So I don't know anything. And I'm not saying that Tim McCullough and Joe Botto are young, because they're not, but at least they know how to set all this stuff up. And it amazes me how far we've come just in a few years. And so that was, and that's been fun. It's been different. I get on Nick because when we weren't on, one of the things that Nick would do was explain what the uniforms were, red top, and I'd have to say, hey, they could see it. I mean, it's on TV, they could see it. So radio, you had to paint a picture. TV, you don't have to. Sometimes it's shut up. But.
Well, and a lot of times I remember we had listeners, hey, what's the score? What quarter is it? How much time's left? Well, Tim gets the idea. Well, let's put a camera on the scoreboard and they can see it all the whole time. So, well, any parting shots, John, as we get ready to go up the Athens?
Coach Ritter and his staff and have come into Decatur and I think stabilized it. And Coach Adcock was a dear friend of mine, and it was time for him to get a change. We had a little hiccup in there. Coach Ritter has come, and what my thought would be, my wish for Decatur is we'd get 2 or 3 skill guys, because that's generally that was the key to Decatur's success throughout the years. We weren't the most talented, we weren't the biggest and strongest, but we would have a mixture of a couple of skill guys in there, and then with your everyday Joes. And you put that together, and the sky's the limit. And I think that's the trajectory that we're on, and I'm happy about that. Appreciate it. All right. Well, you've been listening to the Red Raider preview show. We're fixing to go have a senior night.
And what is it? Always a great day.
Always a great day to be a
Red Raider.